Live.
Okay, we're going to cover the replacement of the Simomed video monitor on the Siremobil Compact or Compact L or ISO-C. The first thing you want to have is a blanket or something else soft laying either on the floor or on a table so that you have a place to lay the display on its face. The next thing you do is you lock the wheels on the cart to make sure that the cart doesn't walk when you try and work with it. Turn the machine off and unplug it from the wall. It should be completely disconnected when you work on it. I'm going to open the box that your replacement video display comes in. Take the top piece of styrofoam off and set it aside. You're going to need it later. In the package is the tools that you'll need. They're probably going to be wrapped in bubble wrap, so make sure you wrap them back up in the bubble wrap when you're done so that they don't bounce around in the box. There's 3 tools in here. There's a number 10 Torx, which is the smaller Torx, a number 20 Torx, which is the larger Torx, and a sort of a medium-sized flathead screwdriver, along with a handle and an extension. You want to get your hands under the video monitor, just with your legs. Pick it up and set it on a nice cushy blanket with the bottom facing you. Get the number 20 Torx, put it in the handle. Loosen the 2 captive screws that hold the back cover on. They don't come all the way out. They're captive, they stay with the cover. Set the cover aside, you're going to need that later. Switch to the smaller Torx, the T10. And there's 2 little cable clamps. One holds the coax, one holds the power cord. You want to take one of the T10 screws completely out. And set it aside, you're going to need it later. Take one of the power cord screws out. Set that aside, you'll need that later. And loosen the other screw, but don't take it all the way out, but leave it nice and loose. Then you come over to the monitor cart. You switch back to the larger of the 2 Torx, the T20. You do the same thing with this back cover. Loosen the screws. Don't take them all the way out. They're captive, they stay with the cover. And before you take the cover off, you want to take a look down here? You have to unplug the power cord in order to get the cover on and off. Set the cover aside. You're going to need that later. Remove the BNC video connector, quarter turn counterclockwise, and then pull it straight off. Switch back to the small T10 and do the same thing with these, where you remove one side of each clamp completely, take the screw completely out, and set that screw aside, and take one side of the power cord clamp completely out, set that screw aside, and then loosen it so that you can get the cord out from under the clamp. Same thing with the video cable. Once the cords are loose, this screw right here, there's 2 screws that hold the video monitor to the base. They're either going to be a T20 or a flathead. In my case, I have the flathead. So using the extension, I reach back in there to loosen these captive screws, these 2 captive screws. Just keep turning and turning until they're loose. They do not come completely out. Turn, turn, turn until it's loose. Now we recommend, now that the cables are free and the 2 captive screws are loose, the monitor can come off. We recommend 2 people for this, but if you're experienced, you can do this by yourself. It has to slide toward me, and then tilt up, and then lift straight up. And it comes completely off. You want to set it on its back on the floor for now. Come over and pick up your replacement video monitor and get it oriented like that, where the picture tube is toward you. And you can lift it up and just sort of rest it against your chest. Try not to trip over anything.
That would have been good.
And set it down. Now this, you have to get it where it sits down. It has to sit down in here, and this has to be flush. This metal piece has to be flush with the plastic right there. If it's not, if it's up, it's not in all the way. So you slide it back until it drops down, and then you slide it back the rest of the way. All the way to the back. So it won't slide back anymore. And then you know you've got it in the right place if the plastic and the metal are flush, and when you tighten these screws that they bite, and you can tighten them down. If they tighten them down, you've got it locked in place. So you tighten both those screws. You switch to the T10 without the extension, and you put the coax cable back on, quarter turn, and it's locked. You put the T10 screws back in, tighten them down. They just have to be snug, they don't have to be super tight, just hand tight. You put the power cord in its little clamp, and you tighten, put the screw back in, tighten that down. You don't need a lot of extra power cord sticking out, just enough to plug it in. So, now to put the cover back on, after you snug down all four of those screws, to put the cover back on, this has to be unplugged. You get your new cover, not your old one, but your new cover. You slip it on, making sure that you don't trap the power cord when you slide it on. Plug the power cord in after you get the cover on. Switch back to the T20. Line everything up carefully. Make sure all the little corners are where they're supposed to be. These screws should go in quite easily if you have it lined up right. Tighten up those screws. Just snug, they don't have to be very tight. And double check everything. These should be tight, these two. You can't see the two that tighten the thing down anymore. But there's a total of 2 screws on each clamp, 2 screws holding the monitor on, 2 screws holding the case on. At this point, you can plug the machine back in, turn the unit on, and let it boot up and make sure that it's working properly. And while it's turning on, you can put your old dud monitor back together and back in the box. Put it face down on the nice soft blanket. Put your 2 T10s back where they belong. And slip the cover back on. Being careful to line up all the little corners and pins drop in where they're supposed to. Switch back to the T20. Tighten up those screws. And you're ready to put it back in the box. It goes back in the box face down, just like you took it out. You put it in the box, being careful to put it in the right way so that the little The bottom is facing this way, and the little notches you can see line up with the notch on the bottom of the video monitor. You put the tools that we loaned you back in the bag. Seal the bag, wrap it up in the bubble wrap, and put it down here in the box. Put the cover back on. Close the box up. Take it down to the local FedEx and ship it FedEx ground. And you're all done.